Hello, welcome to Magnetic Mindset, guys. Think about this seriously. What actually happens to most men after marriage? Their friend circle starts to shrink or fades away. The hobbies they once loved suddenly seem selfish unless they somehow benefit the family. Their free time, it vanishes into house chores and family responsibilities. The money they earn isn't really their money anymore. It becomes our money, and more often than not, it's the woman who decides how it's spent. This isn't some random outcome. It's a design. Women naturally know that a man becomes more valuable to the family when he has fewer options outside of it. The fewer choices he has, the more effort he'll pour into keeping that relationship going. So, little by little, choice after choice, his independent life is stripped away until he's both financially and emotionally stuck. The most twisted part of this setup is that it uses a man's best traits against him: his drive to be a loyal husband, a responsible provider, and a devoted father. Those very traits become the chains that tie him down. He helps build his own prison because saying no feels like being selfish or failing as a man. Carl Jung once said, "The most terrifying thing is to accept oneself completely." But for married men, the most frightening thing might be realizing just how domesticated they've become. Even our language gives it away. Phrases like ball and chain, getting hitched, or taking the plunge all hint at marriage being a loss of freedom. But it gets darker. This system doesn't just take advantage of men, it conditions them to feel thankful for it. That phrase, happy wife, happy life, that's not just a saying, it's programming, conditioning men to value a woman's emotions more than their own needs, dreams, or peace of mind. It creates a power imbalance where one person's happiness becomes the mission and the other's happiness only matters if it supports that mission. That's not a partnership. That's servitude dressed up to look like love. Schopenhauer noted that a man can only truly be himself when he is alone. Marriage slowly removes that solitude, the space where a man finds himself. He stops being who he truly is and becomes whoever his wife needs him to be. The change is so gradual he rarely sees it coming. First it's skipping guys' night to avoid a fight. Then it's always picking her favorite spot for dinner. Then it's letting her handle all the decisions about where they go and what they do. Each one seems harmless, but stacked together, they erase him. At the same time, women's behavior in marriage follows a clear, predictable path. In the early dating phase, they put in effort. Sex is frequent. Interests are shared. Demands are low. Agreeability is high. But once the commitment is locked in, that all changes. Sex becomes a reward, not a natural part of the relationship. Shared interests vanish unless they fit into the family goals. Demands go up, patience goes down. The woman who used to try to impress now expects to be impressed. This isn't her being deceptive. It's how she's wired. Evolution designed her to secure protection and resources, then make that setup work best for her. The man who doesn't understand this system becomes its victim. The hardest truth men don't want to accept is this: your wife's love is not unconditional. It's based on how useful you are, not your soul, not your kindness, your utility. Lose your job, get sick, or just become too familiar, and the love begins to fade. Look at the data. Women initiate 70 to 80% of divorces. Why? Not because they're necessarily unhappy, but because the deal no longer serves them. They've either squeezed out all they could from the relationship or believe they can do better. And once divorce hits, The system ensures the man keeps paying alimony, child support, losing assets. He keeps supporting a family that he's now legally blocked from fully participating in. But it gets worse. Marriage doesn't just drain men financially, it crushes them mentally. It attacks his very sense of identity and direction. The married man learns quickly that his feelings come second. His job is to fix problems, keep the peace, and carry emotional weight. He becomes a responder, not a leader. Over time, he stops even trying to push back because he's learned it only leads to more stress. This is what psychologists call learned helplessness, the feeling that nothing you do will make a difference. Eventually, he starts defending the very system that traps him. He tells himself sacrifice is love, that discomfort is part of being a man, that real men always put their family first, no matter how much it drains them. This mindset is reinforced everywhere. Movies celebrate the man who gives up everything for his family. Churches preach selflessness as the ultimate male virtue. Even other men pressure each other to stay quiet and carry on. Married men can't admit how bad things are without facing the fact that they've been broken by it. If any of this feels familiar, if it's stirring something deep in you, like a quiet truth you've been avoiding, then hit like and subscribe. Support this message. Let's make sure more men see what's really going on. Because the biggest failure isn't that women use this system. It's that men aren't prepared for it. Society teaches men to give and protect, but never how to protect themselves. Here's what young men are never told. The second you make a woman your main source of meaning, validation, and joy, you've already given up your power. You've handed your mental sovereignty to someone whose natural instinct is to put her own needs first. This doesn't make her a villain, it makes her human. Her behavior isn't random. It's been shaped by generations of survival instincts. The women who were best at securing support from men had more success reproducing. But that doesn't mean they're built to care about your inner peace. They're built to care about what benefits them and their children. Modern marriage hands them tools, legal and social, to get what they want easier than ever. The man who wakes up to this doesn't get angry, he gets smart. He understands that relationships are about leverage, and the person with more choices always holds the power. Schopenhauer once said, "All happiness is negative, not positive." In other words, real peace doesn't come from getting what you want from others. It comes from not needing anything from them in the first place. This truth shatters the myth that marriage equals joy. If you need a relationship to feel complete, you've already lost your strength. But if you see marriage as optional, as a bonus, rather than a necessity, you keep your power. Most men make a fatal mistake. They think they can win the system by being better. Better communicator, better provider, better looking. They think if they play their cards right, the game will bend in their favor. But it won't, because this isn't a game of skill, it's nature. You can't negotiate with gravity. Women don't choose to optimize marriage for themselves any more than men choose to be attracted to younger women. It's how we're built. The only real way to win is not to play by rules that guarantee you'll lose. Here's the brutal truth successful men know but rarely say aloud. The second you become essential to a woman's lifestyle, you become optional as a man. She stops seeing you as a person. You're now a role, a provider, a fixer, an emotional support system. On the outside, it may look like marriage, but it's really just a smart form of servitude with occasional sex. He works. She manages the household and decides when affection is given. It's efficient, but it's not equal, and it quietly destroys the man's mental health. This explains why married men die earlier, suffer more from depression, and often lose that fire they once had. They're not just tired, they're broken. And society ignores this because the system needs male sacrifice to keep running. The man who puts himself first, who protects his time, energy, and dreams, is seen as dangerous. He doesn't fit the narrative. So society labels him selfish, immature, scared of commitment. But that's only because the system can't afford for him to see clearly. Schopenhauer's teachings become radical here, he said. The safest way to avoid misery is not to expect happiness. In love, that means letting go of the fantasy that marriage will complete you. When you drop that fantasy, you start thinking clearly. You ask, what am I giving? What am I getting? Is this a good trade? Most men don't even ask those questions. They're taught love should rise above logic, but love fades, people change, the contract stays. The smart man treats relationships like business deals, with boundaries, with purpose, with realism. He doesn't give up his soul, hoping it buys him loyalty. He doesn't lose himself and then blame her for not saving him. He doesn't make someone else responsible for his happiness. He takes full control. This requires what Schopenhauer called the art of not being fooled. You need to see past what women say and focus on what they actually react to. They say they want kind, sensitive men, but reward men who stay focused on their mission and keep emotional distance. Watch closely. The guy who's always there gets ignored. The guy who's focused on his purpose gets pursued. It's not that women lie. They truly believe what they say, but their biology pulls them in another direction. They crave strength. They respect mystery. They get bored when a man becomes too predictable. The smart man sees this, adjusts, and doesn't take it personally. He builds a life so strong that having a woman around is a bonus, not a need. His solitude becomes his superpower, and that makes him attractive, because in love, scarcity rules. When your attention is always available, your value drops. When you chase too hard, she backs away. But when you hold your space, keep your edge, and never give more than you're willing to lose, suddenly they lean in. Women test this strength in countless subtle ways. And if you fold to every test, you lose her respect, and with it, her attraction. But if you stand firm, live by your values, and don't put her emotions above your integrity, she follows. She may not even understand why, but her biology does. This is why nice guys finish last isn't an insult. It's a law of nature. Niceness alone signals weakness, neediness, and lack of options. These aren't attractive traits, but strength doesn't mean cruelty. Independence doesn't mean arrogance. Real power is calm, steady, and centered. A sovereign man can be kind without being weak. He gives from abundance, not from a need to be liked. To get there, you have to kill the part of you that craves approval. You must become so solid within that no one's opinion can shake your peace. You must be driven by missions so big that petty drama becomes irrelevant. This path is tough. It's lonely, but on the other side, you reach something few men ever touch: freedom. The ability to choose relationships based on strength, not desperation. The ability to love without losing yourself, to care without being controlled, to lead without begging to be followed. This is real connection, not dependency, not sacrifice, not slavery. And it changes everything. Marriage can be chosen, but only if the terms serve your life. If not, walk away, stay free. Because when you build a life that stands on its own, you attract those rare women who want to share your world, not own it. That's not weakness, that's power. And it's yours, if you're ready to claim it. And subscribe to Magnetic Mindset.